Hi, everybody. I hope you're all keeping safe but staying sane and curious in these uncertain times. I'm Vivek Bharadwaj. I'm a data scientist and I develop machine learning algorithms at an Australian fashion e commerce, The Iconic. When I read books or blog posts about artificial intelligence and automation, I'm beginning to see a consistent trend. Computers are now beating humans at chess, Go, poker, and the stock markets. These machines don't get tired or fall sick. They deliver insights and intelligence in a matter of seconds. So, whenever businesses look at automation using AI, they usually look at it as a way to save costs, something on the lines of how can we build AI to automate the expertise of our staff and replace them. This talk is not about that. Instead, I want to show you that for customer facing AI applications, human ingenuity and machine intelligence are not interchangeable. In fact, they are not even comparable. So, while designing AI, having humans and machines working together and utilizing their unique strengths is the best way to create great outcomes for your customer. This talk is about how you might design a unique flavor of AI systems called human centered AI so that you can reframe the previous question about automation and ask yourselves how can we augment your staff and achieve scale so that you can retain their expertise rather than having to replace it? Investing in building AI for automation type of systems as well as retaining your staff seems a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it? Like you're doubling up the costs? I'll show you that if designed properly, human centered AI or HCAI gives you the best of both worlds. So, your AI projects that typically took weeks or months to finish can actually ship quicker, as well as your staff becomes more productive than ever. And we will do this by hooking on to yet another relatively newish trend from the land of software development called microservices, which turns out to be the best way to design HCAI. As consumers, we've come to expect great customer service from the businesses that we interact with. These customer experiences are delivered by who I call everyday experts. Now, by expert, I don't mean the $3,000 a day PowerSuite consultant, but I'm talking about your staff who helps run your startup or your business function day in and day out. These could be the barista that you employ in your cafe. These could be your call center employees or your marketing managers within your business. On the one hand, these everyday experts have a certain intuition about your business and your customers, and they are capable of creativity and empathy. On the other hand, though, your staff is only human with human constraints. As your company grows rapidly and acquires more customers, your staff can no longer keep up with the growing demand. So, you look towards automated solutions. Solving the company's problem of scale is the very promise of AI based automation. And why not? Because once you deploy one algorithm, it is now able to automate the decision making for hundreds, if not thousands, of your customers. It does this by pattern matching your customers' behaviors and needs. But when businesses optimize only for scale, they lose the benefits of human creativity and empathy while solving problems for their very real customers. The other big problem is that machine learning algorithms don't really have a reliable way of dealing with data it hasn't seen before. As your algorithm developer spends weeks and months fixing the edge cases before it's ready to deploy into the real world, you're now wondering how come your investment with AI isn't really paying off. Well, you're not alone in feeling this way. Just in October 2019, MIT Sloan and the Boston Consulting Group carried out a survey to nearly 2,500 executives about how much value and impact they're seeing from AI within their companies. In spite of 40% of the surveyed companies claiming that they had made significant investments in machine learning and AI, 7 out of 10 companies reported little to no impact from their AI projects so far. The promise of human-centered AI, or HCAI, is this very balance between AI level scale and human level creativity. By designing AI systems with both the human experts as well as the machine simultaneously working to solve the customer problem, your system developer can now delegate the complex customer touchpoints to the human in the loop, who in effect becomes a safety net against the edge cases and the outliers. Now we can utilize the machines for what they do best, which is crunch data and uncover patterns at internet scale. Humans and machines working together is a winning combination. But there is a caveat. The combination yields amazing results. However, some problems are better suited for it than others. Also, being relatively new at this stage, there's no real playbook to deploy these systems well within to your business. Hopefully, by the end of this talk, you'll be as convinced as I am about what kind of approach works and what kind of approach doesn't. So, say you're a startup or a company with a traditional AI solution to a customer-facing problem. For example, let's say you're a WebMD type of a chatbot interface that provides medical diagnoses. Or let's say you're an e-commerce website with a search and recommendation problem. Before we answer how to apply human-centered AI, I think it's useful to quickly cover what the traditional approach to building AI is. There's two principal actors as you see in the system. On your right, we have the customer, and the AI algorithm is to your left. On the outside, this process looks really simple. But in fact, this simple diagram hides a massive amount of complexity and gotchas, which is why sometimes the investment in AI doesn't pay off the way we want it to. For the machine to be able to make these recommendations or to take action, the machine learning algorithm needs to be trained on enormous amounts of data. Once the first version of the model is ready, it then goes into this time-consuming loop of testing and validation for edge cases as well as robustness. For example, if your algorithm was that WebMD type of chatbot interface, before real patients start using your app, you want to be absolutely certain that you have taken care of all the errors coming from false positives and false negatives. The way you implement human-centered AI, however, is quite different. We can already acknowledge that understanding a customer's intentions the way people would is not really the strength of a machine. So we put our customer experience first and we sever the direct interaction between the machine and the customer. We'll get the AI algorithm to do what it does best. That is, analyze the data points and uncover patterns at scale. In addition to this, we introduce a different type of a neural network, one that is very strong at making sense of unstructured data. And that is the mind of your staff, your everyday expert. With this new actor in the system interacting with the customer, the system can now then begin to get all kinds of contextual and relevant information necessary to make a better recommendation. In that concept diagram that you see here, that stream of blue that you see to the right is the stream of human conversation between the customer and the everyday expert, rather than just some explicit feedback in the form of clicks, likes, or direct survey type of questions. Now, an important point to consider here is that the interaction effects come into play. If we only had the customer and the business user in this diagram, then we would never achieve scale. Let's illustrate this by taking an example of my own company, The Iconic. The Iconic is one of Australia's leading fashion and sports e-commerce. We stock over 60,000 fashion and sports products for both men and women and launch nearly 200 products every day. Even though I work there, if you come to me and ask what dress within our product offering I would recommend for your upcoming birthday party next weekend, I would have no idea what to tell you. In fact, scratch that. Nobody should have to take fashion advice from me. But let's say you talk to someone who gets fashion, maybe one of our stylists or one of our fashion buyers. Even they would not be able to grok through thousands of products that we have on stock and give you the most relevant and personalized recommendation. So we get that, right? Humans are great, but we don't scale. Let's go back to a different concept art and see how human-centered AI or HCAI can solve this conundrum. The business user here can leverage the interaction effects from the machines by requesting the algorithm for an initial set of recommendations after analyzing all of the data points. Now, here's the biggest difference, that these recommendations could be way off target, and that is okay because these are put in front of the business user or your everyday expert and not the customer. After sense checking these initial recommendations against her own repository of common sense knowledge or domain expertise, the business user could either be happy with the initial recommendations or request a different set of parameters for the machine level recommendations, or choose to ignore these things and just utilize any further unstructured information that the business user has at her disposal. A domain expert augmented by a suite of intelligent automation tools will not only be able to deliver a higher quality of service, but also to a much larger number of customers per day than she would have without algorithmic enhancement. Some of you may have caught yet another important point that I wanted to drive home here. It is that when you design HCAI, you're not really designing one AI algorithm at all. In the same way that you won't find a human with just one skill or one expertise, the intelligent automation that supports these human experts should be designed as a suite of tiny intelligent automation tools. Back to that retail example, imagine having one small algorithm specifically figuring out the most relevant client information to display to the business user. Another small algorithm learning more about the customer based on implicit feedback. Another one matching the right business user to the right customer, and another one making the recommendations. Each small algorithm adds value to the overall system independently. But when you have these tens of little tiny worker bees running around in your business, if things are not designed properly, it will surely get out of hand really quickly. Lucky for us, in another realm of technology within web development and app development, a new type of design architecture is getting rapidly popular, which incidentally works really well with human-centered AI. This is called microservices. So what are microservices? Your software developers will explain this better than I will, but in simple words, microservices is a way of designing software applications where each task is broken into many small independent components which talk to each other using a consistent mechanism like an API. A useful way to think about a microservice for me is the spell checker app that we're already probably used to. I see the spell checker app as a microservice. It does one thing and one thing well, and that is to check for spelling and grammar. It's really quite independent of the document that you're typing on. In fact, the same service can be used with minimum modification to even a PowerPoint presentation or an Excel spreadsheet. You give it a clearly defined bunch of input and it abstracts away all of the complex linguistic processing it does within itself. As an end user, you don't need to know all this. This way, it locks in the value almost entirely within itself and only gives you a clear output, which is a bunch of recommendations that you trust. I see this type of communication through APIs as a metaphor for how AI and AI system designers need to think about the way their human-centered AI communicates with the domain expert, where you abstract away the complexity and show useful summaries to scale up your everyday expert. So at The Iconic, our tech and data teams have fully adopted the microservice architecture, and we're embedding intelligence into the way we target our customers for marketing as well as for some product features. However, to see a tangible example of how a company would successfully adopt human-centered AI, I wanted to share with you the story of a Silicon Valley company that went on this journey of HCAI almost 8, maybe 9 years ago and made this the very backbone of their business model. This gambit turned out to be successful, and the startup went public in the US around 2-3 years ago. This company is called Stitch Fix. Now, while Stitch Fix is not really a competitor to The Iconic, they're also a fashion retailer where customers receive an ensemble of men's and women's dresses to their home. The biggest difference, though, is that the customers at Stitch Fix don't pick a single dress they get sent. It is 100% picked by a recommendations algorithm. And this algorithm is a human-centered AI. The way they do this is in 2 stages. Stitch Fix has a globally outsourced workforce of nearly 2,500 everyday experts who are fashion stylists. But to achieve scale, the company has tens, if not hundreds, of intelligent algorithms deployed as microservices, each one performing little actions to enhance and assist the human stylist. For example, one algorithmic microservice crunches the numbers on every dress they have available and matches it with the style of their customer to generate some initial recommendations. These recommendations are then curated by the human stylist, who then picks 5 items for their final box by looking at the client's needs holistically as well as exercising judgment. Not only this, she also looks at different types of information, like if the client has shared any Pinterest boards or even heartfelt requests such as this one from the client. Handling this type of information is exactly where the human stylist shines. This winning combination of customer experience has led to revenue, growth, and profitability for the company without really sacrificing scale. And that is the goal of human-centered AI done well. Alright, I guess I've packed in a ton of information over the past 20 minutes. Let's reflect a bit on what we have covered so far. We've spoken at length about a relatively new way of designing intelligent automation applications called human-centered AI. These solutions are best suited for customer problems involving human interactions and a direct customer impact. We discussed about how traditional AI systems are designed in a linear fashion by observing and mimicking human behavior. HCAI, on the other hand, has a number of circular feedback loops with your everyday expert, your customer, and the AI algorithm. With regards to practical applications, we saw in detail how Stitch Fix literally bet their business model on human-centered AI. A number of companies and startups are building product features and solutions based on this paradigm. Finally, we spoke about microservices as the best architecture for designing HCAI into your business. Don't go about building one monolith of an algorithm that solves for the overall customer profitability or experience. Instead, architect your human-centered AI as a suite of intelligent automation tools. At the beginning of my presentation, I said that humans and machines are a fantastic combination. When it works great. Your customers will love you for it. Your staff will love you for it. It's hard in a lot of ways though, because it's not really a passive process. And frankly, working with AI is not a passive process. But if you and your company believe that automation with AI is not just about reducing costs, if you believe in leveraging AI to supercharge your staff with an ability to do exactly what they're doing, but only better, more personalized, and to serve more customers, if you truly believe this, then human centered AI is something for you to embrace. Thank you for listening. And I'll be around Slack if you have any questions or want to discuss any aspect of this presentation. Bye.